welcome back to the end of another week. We're out and about checking things out. I wanted to show off my new crazy hedgehog diner. It's been sort of a work in progress because my other cardboard box that was on the other side got destroyed in the recent winds and rain. And with the video that I've been collecting, I've noticed that one, they're not much for climbing. So originally I had this one on top of this one with a ladder, but they didn't really use it at all. They like this one, except for like, it gets really stinky because there's hay in there. So I need to clean it out. But now they seem to like this little trio. So I have at least 3, if not up to 5 or 6, who come in the evenings. And there's now 3 feeders and 2 water spaces. So that's kind of cool for them. And I like watching the videos. Since we're in here and I don't show you much, this is actually my, my wasabi, which I bought from the nursery in a pot with dirt. And then I researched it and it's like, oh, it grows in water. And I was like, well, crap, I don't really have anything. So I created this like self-cycling system. And these old leaves are what remains of the leaves that were on the plant when I got it, but pretty much in this one as well. But all the rest are new. So basically the 3 old ones are dying off and all these other little ones are new. So it seems to like the space. I haven't given it any nutrients, which I researched I probably should, but it's actually in, well, you can't really see it, but it's in these little like Lego balls. And I basically have the same trash cans that I used for the potatoes, or that I used for the potatoes, except for obviously this one doesn't have any holes in it. And I put a pump in that basically circulates into this like, one of these wire baskets that's full of Lego balls. And it's been put in there and it seems to be happy. So I'm going to wait and see what happens there. Around the rest of the space, so over here, I finally got around to sorting out the greenhouse that had fallen over with the table. These are all seedlings that were in the greenhouse that I need to decide whether or not I want to try to salvage. And the greenhouse has since been moved into there because it's very windy. I've started putting little tags near my plants because I always rely over here, I always rely on the tags that come with the thing, except for after about a year, they completely go kaput and you can't see what you have. So I've started this new system where when I get new plants, the first thing I do is create tags for them. And that way, when I decide I'm ready to plant them out, I have the tags to go with them. So speaking of all that, I did get around to roasting my chestnuts. So eventually I want to ferment them, but I'm still figuring out exactly how I want to do that. I have started some other ferments, so I'll throw some pictures of those in. Up here, we have more wind damage, and that's Diane damage. I've been trying to clear out the strawberries, kind of unsuccessfully. I figured out that these wild strawberries that I harvested on the side of the road are actually super invasive. So I'm going to be pulling all of those up and maybe putting them along the hedgerow or something instead, but not in the garden itself. However, if we go into the garden, my arch is getting even more bent out of shape with the wind. However, in the garden, I did get around to cleaning out this area over here. So I trimmed back my physalis because I still haven't brought myself to like kill them completely. Over in this space, I went ahead and actually planted some perennials. I will have to pull out these strawberries because I don't want them growing on this side. But I did plant like a lauvage and some, they're called osei in France. And for whatever reason, my English brain is not remembering what they're called right now. So I'll put the name up. Sorrel. I planted sorrel along here. So I have red vein sorrel and then a green sorrel and then more red vein sorrel. So that's going to be growing in here for next year. And this area here, I've decided will be for perennials. I am redoing these framings on the beds. So this bed has been redone, and basically the hoops are now every meter. Because moving forward, what I want to do is basically consider each little section a bed. Rather than this whole thing being a bed. Because I've decided that square foot gardening, where you do like every single square is basically allocated to something, that's too small for me. And having like the giant rows that are very traditional here in France are also too big for me. So square foot gardening's too small, the rows are too big, and just for like ease of maintenance, I want each section planted with like its own thing. So this is 150 centimeters by 1 meter. And like this, that, and unfortunately only half of this has been planted with shallots. However, I do have enough shallots that I can actually continue planting out the rest of this little section in shallots. And then that would leave this section for maybe tomatoes next year. Because this was supposed to be fruits, but ultimately shallots are more important to us than tomatoes. So you kind of have to juggle and see what happens. I'm planning on doing something similar to all the other beds. So right now, this one doesn't even have any hoops except for on the ends. But my idea is that I'm going to put these framing structures every meter. So the next, I'll work on that probably this next week, to get that infrastructure up. And then moving forward, basically I'll be planting based on like the beds that are 1 meter by 150 meters, 150 centimeters. I did get to planting more brassicas up in here. Some of them have already been destroyed by slugs, and some of them are coming in. I am a beginner gardener, obviously. So I didn't actually realize that the whole point of overwintering things is to have them like mature enough to not grow during your Persephone period, which I only discovered this year. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm learning and I'm having fun, and really that's all that matters to me. The sweet peas that I planted are looking great. So that'll be fun. The garlic that I interplanted within my peppers are popping up, as is, those are shallots over there. So those are popping up. So that's all exciting. I like to see new things growing in the garden. What else did I do? Really not much. I got that covered in straw. There's some, this is like the one little section that I planted with my toilet roll carrots and side planted with radishes. And the radishes that didn't get eaten by flea beetles are now finally coming to fruition. So we'll see what happens there. I think I'm going to plant some chicory in here. I had some what I think are perennial leeks or bulbous leeks growing in there. Whatever they were, I've dug up and I've transplanted down here in my asparagus. So like I have a batch there and I have a batch there. So I'm honestly not sure what those are, but I guess we'll see as they grow in what they are. In the chicken area, I'm not going to go all the way in there, but we'll come up here and check it out. In the chicken area, oh my gosh, you can see that the chickens have discovered the bench. I've had to add the little wooden barriers on each side. Those were not originally there. And I have like a mesh fence around those planting spots, but Miss Red up there on the right figured out how to go on the bench and then hop into the beds. And apparently she's now kind of teaching everybody else how to do that. So it looks like my barriers are working. But all that being said, I did fill up those beds there and those beds there. And I actually dug a space way over in that corner where I planted another lovage. I have the sage here, and actually here, if I zoom out again, these boxes I put in because I was worried that the chickens were going to eat the sage. But I'm getting stuck in the thing. Obviously, when you compare it to this sage, which has definitely not been eaten and does have the barrier down there, I'm actually going to be taking these barriers off and using them somewhere else because they're kind of wasted here. The grillage, the hardware cloth that I have on there is sufficient enough. So yeah, next week my plan is to keep working along the area by that pitchfork, because I'm gonna plant some stuff there. I also eventually want to plant things all the way around the fence line there, but I'll bring you out there and we'll go take a look. Mr. B doing his dog thing. Before we go over there, all of my Apios americana died back. Apparently it's totally normal. I was expecting them to last longer, but they're like super crispy at this point. So I will be working on getting them cut to the ground. The tubers should still be fine, but I'm not harvesting them this year. I'm going to wait at least 1 or 2 more years. I also pulled the barrier that was protecting my compost pile out here because eventually I'm going to be extending this whole area into flowers. So I want to use these pieces of wood to extend my thing up to here. And then basically the plan is to have a path that kind of comes down the middle there and meets this other path. And then I have flowers kind of all the way around the space. So that's the overall plan there. Again, I'm not going to go all the way in, but this will give you some idea of what's happening in the chicken space. So I have the lovage planted over there. I have ideas for planting gooseberries and gooseberries and raspberries around the bench there that the girls have taken over. Here, they do like that bench. I like that bench too. But yeah, so basically we have the bench. We're going to have 2 gooseberries and then raspberries and then the lovage over here. I want to do more plantings along this fence line, and I also want to eventually do some plantings along this fence line. And I'm not sure if those plantings are going to be inside the fence or outside the fence. But ultimately, everything that I plant around the chicken area is safe for the chickens. Out in this space, the winter squash are having some issues. I wasn't great on watering them, so a lot of them are split. If I come over here, like you can see there's a lot of damage and splitting, so it's probably not salvageable for me, but the chickens will still like it. There's a bunch of little ones in here, so eventually I need to see what's salvageable and what's not. But over here I created a little compost area. So I had some compost here that I flipped into this side, and this is stuff that I pulled out and cut from the garden. So when I flip this back, I'll probably mix this into it. And basically, like, I'm going to be kind of flip-flopping back and forth because I'm still experimenting with, like, what composting system works best for me. Because ultimately, I don't produce a lot of compost. I don't produce a lot of compost material until this time of year when I'm pulling everything out, and then suddenly I have a bunch of stuff to compost. So I'm figuring out, like, what works. Not much happening in the plant alley. And down here, I did get the little tabs that I'm planning to secure this with. So next week, that's my to-do. I also filled up the planter here with some dirt. So I'm going to plant my bay tree, among other things, like in this section. I have some things that I'm planning on planting up in the chicken area. And yeah, other than that, I think that's it for this week. So I don't have anything pretty to leave you with. So here, I'll leave you with these yellow flowers. I have no idea what they're called, but they're pretty. Oh, and that actually reminds me that I have a really pretty video of a bumblebee on a dandelion. So I'll throw that in for the very end here. But I hope you had a good one, and I will see you next week. Bye.